be real easy, real informal. Take notes, don't take notes, whatever floats your boat, okay? Because everybody learns differently. Some people do better by listening, some people do better by writing down. If you have questions, ask questions. All right? All right, so you have a question already?
No, I just said yes, no.
Oh, okay. All right, so first, what we're going to start with is, what is love? Anybody? Anybody got a definition or can explain? A feeling, okay. Love is a feeling. What else?
When you care for somebody?
Ooh, when you care for somebody, okay.
Unconditional and never wavering.
Oh, man. I'm trying to be our students, okay. Conditioning, okay. Alright, so the thing about the word love is that in the English language, which is, I think, all of our first language, right, what we speak, we use the word love, one word, love, for a lot of things. Am I correct? Have you ever said, I love pizza? But you also love your family, right? Is it the same?
No.
Like you feel the same way about, no. You might love watching football. You might love your animal, right? There's a lot of things that you're gonna say love about, but it doesn't mean the same thing. And that's kind of a bad thing about our English language, I think, is that saying that word, and some people use the word love just for everything. I mean, they just throw it around, everything, everything, everything. I love to watch the sunrise. I love to watch Survivor on TV. I love this and that, okay? So when we hear the word love, we have to be a little more discerning about when we're talking about the love that they talk about in the Bible. It's not quite the same as the word that we use all the time. Because in Hebrew, now I am not a scholar, but in Hebrew there were at least 9 words to describe love. I'm not even going to try to pronounce any of them because that would just be terrible, okay? But they had 9 separate words to talk about different types of love. One talked about the love for God and family and friendship. There was a love that was about loyalty and kindness. There's love that refers to friendship. There's love that was a verb, to love. And we're going to come back to that in English. And several others. There's all kinds of words in Hebrew that define different types of love. And that's important because our Old Testament was written in Hebrew originally, right? Now the New Testament was written in what language originally? So I want to say, and we got somebody back there, when I was researching, Aramaic and Greek is what I was reading, okay? So in Greek, I bet most of y'all know this. How many words are there for love in Greek?
4.
There's 4 main types of love that we've heard of in Greek, and I think y'all probably all heard most of these. There's agape. Anybody heard of that before? Phileo. Something about that, I may not pronounce it exactly right. There's eros. And help me out with this last one, the storge.
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 I've never heard
All right.
of those in my entire life.
You've never heard of those. Has anybody heard of agape? What kind of love is agape, Elisha? You already told me the definition of love. What did you say about love? Agape is an unconditional, selfless love. Okay? The second Greek word for love was philia or phileo, something around those. And that is like brotherly love. So your friends, that's how you love your friends, with that type of love. All right? Eros. Any guesses on what type of love eros is? Romantic love.
Yeah, I was about to say it.
You can draw some connections there now, right? Once you know that, okay? And storge love, that involves empathy and affection and compassion. So more of like your family type loves, okay? Does that make sense? All right. So let's jump back to English and let's talk a little bit about, y'all tell me some ways that we could define love. So love can be a noun and it can be a verb. All right? And why that is important is because, as we'll go through some more, in the Bible, when we're called to love, we're not called to just feel an affection for somebody. Love is intended to be a verb. It is something that we have to actively do and actively give. It's not just you can't just say, I love you. That's not enough. Okay, we have to put it into action and use it as a verb. All right, so now y'all get put to work. Okay, everybody that's willing to look up a verse and read, okay? Somebody raise your hand if you're willing to look up Mark 12, 28 through 31. Who's got that one? Somebody tell me they got it, because I'm going to read out another one for y'all to look up. Who's got Mark 12? Carly's got Mark 12. All right. John 13, 34 and 35. John 13. Elijah's got John 13, 34 to 35. All right. Who wants 1 Corinthians 16, 14? All right. Anna's got that one. All right. Evelyn, can you do Galatians 5, 13 to 14? All right. Want to do one?
I guess.
Okay. 1 Timothy 1, 5 to 7. All right, we'll stop there and then we'll do the next one. Okay? All right, if somebody's got one, all right?
One of the teachers of religious law was standing there listening to the debate. He realized that Jesus' answer was well, so he asked, of all the commandments, which is the most important? Jesus replied, the most important commandment is this. Listen, O Israel, the Lord our God is the one and only Lord. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. The second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. No other command is greater than these.
All right, good. All right, John 13.
A new commandment I give you, love one another, as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another.
1 Corinthians.
Just read the whole, chapter?
No, just chapter 16, verse 14. That's it.
Oh. Verse 13.
14.
And do everything with love.
Oh, that's a short one now. Okay. All right, who has Galatians? Evelyn, all right.
You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love. For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command: love your neighbor as yourself.
First Timothy what?
1, 5 through 7.
The goal of this commandment is love, which comes from a pure heart and a good
Conscience.
and a secure faith.
Pure heart, good conscience, sincere faith. All right, we got two more. I need somebody to look up 1 Peter 4, 8. All right, Cameron's got that one. And Charlie, can you do 1 John 3, 18?
1 John 3. It's kind of yours.
Charlie, you got yours? read that one real quick. 1 Peter 4:8 says, "And above all things, have fervent love for one another, for love will cover a multitude of sins." And 1 John 3:18 says, "My little children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth." All right. So, what does the Bible tell us about love? From these verses that we read, what's the main idea here about love?
Love Jesus.
Okay.
Love your neighbor as you do yourself, like, you know? Like,
Yeah. We're gonna go a little more into who we're supposed to love in a minute. We have some other verses. But what did it say in Mark 12? The greatest commandment is what? To love, right? Love God and then love
Your neighbor as
others.
yourself?
yes.
Right, but the greatest commandment is to love. All right, and then in John 13, it said a new commandment I give you. That's the one Elijah read, I think. A new commandment I give you to what? How?
As I am you.
As I have loved you. How is that different from what it said in Mark 12? In Mark 12, it said, love your neighbor as yourself. And in John, it says, to love others as I have loved you. Tell me, who can see a difference in that? Why did we need a new commandment? If we already had the commandment that said, love your neighbor as yourself, why did we need a new commandment that's worded differently? There's something very important, an important difference in that.
Is it like, if you don't treat yourself well, then
You are on the absolute
Yeah.
right track. So in the first, when he said, love others as you love yourself, he's talking about people. Love, we're gonna love. In John, it's Jesus saying to love others as he loved us. Do we love as completely and as fully as Jesus? I mean, have you ever offered to go hang yourself on a cross for somebody? I mean, I haven't. I would love to say that I would, but I don't, yeah. So it's a much stronger tasking to try to love others as Jesus loved than just to love them as you love yourself. And some of us have trouble with self-love. So if we're not loving ourselves very well, then we're not loving other people very well either. So it's a much bigger commandment to say, love as Jesus loved, okay? All right, so the Bible tells us, what I think the Bible tells us about love is in Galatians it said it, all the law is fulfilled in one word. That's it. All the other commandments, he gave us a lot of commandments, right? We're not gonna go through and list them all, but do not murder, do not steal, do not commit adultery, do not lie, all that. If we're loving everyone as Jesus loved us, would we do any of those other things? We wouldn't. So if you can't remember all those commandments and all those rules and everything in the Bible, and you can remember to love completely, unconditionally, selflessly, then you got it. That's what we're supposed to be doing, is loving. And if you're loving people like you're supposed to, it's gonna take care of all the rest of that you're supposed to be doing. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, so now we're gonna look up some more verses, okay? This is the last set. So raise your hand if you're willing to look up and read a verse. All right, you have Leviticus 19:18. All right? No? All right. Who's next? Evelyn, Deuteronomy 6:5. That's the Old Testament. Those first two are Old Testament. Next one. My back table. Psalms. You look up Psalm 31:23 for Cameron. Charlie. Matthew 5:44. Anna. Luke 6. Oh, that's a long one. Hold on. I won't make you do that. Look up John 13:34-35. Chloe, you got a Bible?
I can do it.
I do, but I'm really
You're not-
bad about reading in front of people.
Okay.
It was 31.
Psalm 31:23.
John what? What did I get?
John 13:34-35. Farley, can you do John 15:12?
Yeah.
All right, anybody else willing to read?
I forgot my phone.
My Bible app is frozen.
Max, you want to read?
Matthew what?
I'll read the long one.
44.
Speak about religion.
Somebody wants a long one?
I was like, yeah, I will
Okay.
take the long one.
Luke 6:27-36.
Luke 6:27.
What did you say, Deuteronomy?
6:5.
I did find it.
All right, so, and what we're listening for in all these verses is who the Bible is telling us to love. And we probably already know this, but it's always good to actually see it and read it in French, the Bible, okay? All right, Alex, you ready with yours?
Leviticus 19:18.
Yep.
Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord.
All right, who are we loving in that one?
Your neighbor.
Your neighbor. All right, Deuteronomy 6:5.
Love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your strength.
All right, who are we loving in that one? Good, all right, Cameron.
Oh, love the Lord, all you his saints, for the Lord preserves the faithful and fully repays the proud person.
Lord again. Okay, got a little pattern going here. All right, Matthew 5:44, Charlie.
But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you.
Ooh, just got a little tougher there, huh? I mean, it's pretty easy to love God. It's pretty easy if you take your neighbor just as like your friends and your family, which is not really just what our neighbor is, but that's what we like to think. But in this verse, who are we loving over there? Your enemies,
Everyone who persecutes you.
the people who are mean to you, people who don't like you. We have to love them too.
You
Yeah, I know, not so much fun anymore, huh? All right, let's go with Luke.
All right. But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them and let them strike the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expect them to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful.
All right. Oh, anybody feeling their toes a little stepped on with that one? I'm gonna tell you, when I started preparing for this, I think I'm a very loving person. That is something that I've always thought I was good at, right? And then you start getting into this and I'm like, oh, do I always love those people that I don't really agree with? Or do I love those people who have done things to me in the past that hurt my feelings? Not sure. Not sure that I'm doing that quite as well as I'm supposed to. Maybe y'all are doing better. I think y'all doing better than me. Might be. All right. Who else had a verse? All right, go ahead.
This is my commandment, love each other in the same way I love you.
So who we loving there?
Each other.
Each other. So just our family, just our friends. All right, Anna, you have one?
Wait, which one did I have again? Because I think I just read the same one she had.
Okay, that's okay. I think we pretty much got the gist of it. So who does the Bible tell us to love? If you're taking notes, this would be what to write down. Who's the Bible tell us to love?
Everyone.
Oh, there you go. That's the easiest answer, right? Every single person, everywhere. All right. All right, now, we know that our new commandment was to love how? As
He loved us.
as Jesus loved us. So we need to talk about how Jesus loved us, right? All right, so we're gonna read in a minute. You can turn there if you want and follow along. I am not reading from NASB right now. I think I'm reading from New King James, but you can follow along in yours. We're gonna read from a chapter in the Bible that if you have ever been to a wedding, anybody in here ever been to a wedding? There's a good chance you've heard this read at a wedding. Does anybody know? What do they read a lot at weddings? About love. Love is patient, love is kind. Have y'all heard that before?
Yes.
Me too. And let me be honest with y'all. I've never really thought much harder about that chapter than to hear it at a wedding. And it makes you feel good, right? It's so sweet and it's telling you about love. Okay, so the actual, Paul wrote this to the Corinthians, right? And what he was telling them, if we back up a little bit to chapter 12, so we're going to do a little preface to this love chapter. That's what it's referred to most generally, is the love chapter. Okay? So we're going to back up a little bit and we're going to read from 1 Corinthians 12. All right? Or I'm just going to summarize it for y'all. I won't read it. Basically, what he's telling the people in Corinth is that y'all are not doing this right. Y'all are disagreeing about how to serve. You're arguing over whose spiritual gifts are better than the others. You're arguing about who's serving the better person and who's doing this right and who's doing that right. All right, you think that you're being a great loving church, but you're really not. So this love chapter in Corinthians is really Paul saying, this is the way you're supposed to be doing it, because you're not. Kind of like when if you're in school and you write an English paper and your teacher sends it back with all those red marks from her pen, she's telling you, okay, that's a good try, but this is all the things you need to fix about that, okay? So 1 Corinthians 13, I'm just gonna read through it and then we'll talk about it a little more, okay? It says, though I speak with the tongues of men and angels, but have not love, I have become sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. And though I may have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profits me nothing. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. It is not puffed up. Love does not behave rudely. It does not seek its own, is not provoked. It thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. So one of the books I was using to kind of prepare for this said, okay, if you think you're doing a great job over here, you think you got it happening, this is what we're going to do. You're going to read that again. I'm not going to make you do it out loud, but if you have it pulled up, I want you to read through it, and every time it says love, I want you to put your name in there. All right? So I'm going to give you a minute, and you got to read through 1 Corinthians, and instead of it saying, love is patient, love is kind, I want you to read it with your name. So I would say, Laurie is patient, Laurie is kind. I want you to read through it. I'm going to give you just a minute. Read through it and put your name in there. All right. Everybody feeling a little good about themselves? Somebody feeling like they got this figured out? Yeah? Go ahead. I'm impressed. Okay. Okay, that's exactly it. Some things, right? So there's probably some of those parts that you're like, yeah, I got this. I'm doing good at this. My big one is irritable. Okay, and we're going to go through kind of each of the things that it talked about just a little bit. Yeah, and talk about them just a tiny bit, okay? So it said, and some of the words may be a little bit different, but it's kind of the same meanings, right? So it told us that love is patient, right? Love is patient. And patience, when we're talking about it, what we need to remember is that in this entire chapter, all this love stuff, all of these words are meant to be verbs, not nouns, not adjectives. And a verb means it's like active, it's something that you're doing, right? Okay? So when we talk about patience, it means, we could say that love waits patiently. So we can't be like so ready for something to happen that we're pushing a person. Sometimes we have to show them that love, give them the information, and then we gotta wait for things to happen on our own, okay? All right? That one, I would say I'm okay on patience. I'm a pretty patient person. I'm feeling pretty good about that one. How's everybody else feeling about patience? Some of our strong suits, some of our not so strong, right? Okay. All right, what about kind? Everybody's feeling like they're pretty good on the kindness front? Okay. To everybody, or just to kind of like the people that we get along well with, or I think you're doing okay. So when it's, saying kind, they don't want us just to sometimes be kind. He wants it to be sort of the way you live your entire life. Show kindness everywhere, all the time. All right, love is not irritable or resentful. All right, I'm being 100% honest. This is my big weakness right here. I get irritated very easily. Lots of things irritate me. People not following rules, that irritates me. People thinking they're better than other people, that irritates me. People chewing too loud, that irritates me, okay?
I'll blame you on that last one.
Right? Okay. But the thing about being irritated is that it is the exact opposite of love. So when some things Paul says love is, and some things he says love is not, right? So if he's saying it is not, so he says it is not irritable. So if I'm irritable, I'm easily irritated, that is the exact opposite of love. So I am failing 100% completely on fulfilling that part of it, okay? And really, we like to say that other people irritate us, but that's not true. They might do things that we don't like, but we are the ones that are in control of how we react to what they do.
Yes, ma'am.
Does that make sense? Right. So it is a very, I hear it all the time. Oh, that just irritates me. Oh, that just irritates me. You might not like what's happening or what they're doing, but you have to have that enough love from God through Jesus in your heart that it pushes out that automatic reaction to be irritated. And it is an automatic reaction, but it's something that you have to actively seek to work on in order to do better about that. All right. What about love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. How's everybody feeling on that one? like you're pretty good on that one. Say offhand, people might think so, but when we really look at it, so it is not those things. So we want to know what the opposite of that is, right? Because if that's not love, what would be something, some other words that would describe? So the opposite of those would be generosity, humility, courtesy, right? And I think a big one that, maybe not with y'all, I see a lot in adults, is the lack of humility. A lot of people are doing great things, wonderful things, and they might be doing them with a measure of love, but what do they do with those things? This kind of goes back to part of last year's with the idols, right? You might go serve other people, you might go on a mission trip, and you're taking selfies the whole time and you're posting them. And that's not wrong. But if the reason that you're doing things is so that people will say, wow, look at what you're doing, that's so awesome, you're wonderful, you're so loving and compassionate, that's the wrong reason to do them. So you have to look into your own heart and understand the motive behind why you're doing what you are doing in order to make sure that you're doing that strictly out of love for other people and not out of wanting that pat on the back and those accolades and all the attention for yourself. Okay? All right. Love hopes. All right. So this one can kind of easily get kind of mixed up in your brain. So when it says that hopes, Paul didn't mean that love is always going to believe the best about everything and everyone. But love doesn't stop thinking that there's the possibility of the best in everyone. All right? So love is always, well, let me just read it so I don't mess up my words. Love never tires of support. It never loses faith. It never exhausts hope, and it never gives up. So love is always hopeful about the goodness of God and His power to work in somebody's life. So there should never be a time that you think, okay, I've reached out to this person 5 times, 10 times, 1,000 times. I've invited them to church. I've invited them to youth, and they haven't accepted yet. But love is never going to stop. You're going to always have that hope and that faith that God can act through that person's life. Okay? And you might be the vessel that acts through that. So love says you just keep on trying. You don't ever give up on that kind of thing. All right. Let's see. We are going to... All right, we're going to jump over a little bit and let us talk a little bit about love bears all things and endures all things. All right? Who can think of an example of how Jesus showed us that He would endure all things for love? It's the best example.
Taking our sins.
Yeah, so I'm going to flip to Matthew real quick. Matthew 27. All right. Matthew 27:27, okay? Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus and gathered the whole garrison around Him, and they stripped Him and put a scarlet robe on Him. When they had twisted a crown of thorns, they put it on His head and a reed in His right hand. And they bowed the knee before Him and mocked Him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Then they spit on Him and took the reed and struck Him in the head. And when they had mocked Him, they took the robe off Him, put His own clothes on Him, and led Him away to be crucified. All right. So if you've read or heard about crucifixion, it is not a pleasant experience, right? But Jesus endured being mocked, being spit on, being tortured. That's the kind of love that He showed us. Okay? And that's the kind of love that he's calling us to show to other people. Not that we need to endure all of that, but we need to be willing to endure things and sacrifice things for other people. All right. We skipped through some of our verses because I wasn't sure if we were having enough time or not. So, all right. So if someone wanted to sum up how Jesus loved, how he showed us his love, one word, what type of love did Jesus show? Unconditional. All right, that's a good one. Anybody else have any thoughts on the type of love Jesus showed us?
Selfless.
Man, y'all are getting all of mine, all right? Unconditional love, selfless love. What's another one? We skipped some of our verses. We may have to go back and read them so we can understand these. Let's see. Let me go read John 13 for y'all. John 13, 34, no, 13, 1 through 17. All right. Now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come, that he should depart from this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And supper being ended, the devil having already put it into the heart of Judas to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands and that he had come from God and was going to God, rose from supper and laid aside his garments, took a towel and girded himself. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. All right, who can tell me about the washing of feet in those times? Anybody know who normally washed feet?
Servants.
Servants. And typically the lowest servants, right? Because let's just put a picture in your brain. Close your eyes if you need to, okay? Back in those days, what kind of shoes maybe did they wear if they had shoes? Maybe sandals, or maybe barefoot, right? And what kind of roads did they have that they walked on? Dirt roads, right? So as they're walking everywhere, place to place, with bare feet or maybe some kind of leather strap sandals, something of that sort, their feet were probably pretty disgusting. Yeah. So the job of washing feet, because when they ate, they didn't sit at a table typically in a chair and all that, right? How did they? Or they reclined, sometimes they reclined, right, sitting out, and so those feet were kind of involved in the whole area of, and that just, yeah. That turns me off. I would not have much of an appetite. So when they would come in, they would maybe have a servant wash their feet. So when Jesus took that role on himself, he was showing us his servant heart, humility, that he was willing to do this for his friends and for anyone, right? And there's a lot of examples in the Bible of other ways that Jesus loved. So he loved unconditionally, we said. He loved selflessly. He loved with humility and with a servant heart, right? He loved sacrificially, right? Because he died for us, okay? And the other way he loved, that we didn't read all the verses for, was outside of the cultural norms and expectations of that time, right? And I'm gonna say most of us are probably familiar with the woman at the well, right? That would not have been, he wouldn't have gone to talk to a Samaritan woman or even a woman in that time. But he defied what everybody said was expected of him, right? He, who's the little man in the tree, right? Zacchaeus, he went and ate at his house, right? He was a disliked type of person. He ate with sinners. He ate with tax collectors, which nobody liked. So he went outside of what everyone, of the people that he would be expected to associate with. And he went out and served everyone, okay? So what that means for us today is that this is great, and I love Fuel, and I love all our camps, and it's a nice week to be able to kind of build yourself up. But when you go back out, when you go home, you can't just stay in your little tiny circle of the world and show your love. You've got to show your love to everyone that is around you, not just those people that you identify with and you have things in common with. You have to show your love to everybody. All right. So we are getting close to time. So I'm going to jump through a few takeaway thoughts, and I think these are on your handout, some of them. Okay. We're going to do one more reading real quick though, because this is kind of important to me. I want everyone who has a Bible or a Bible app to turn to the same verse. Okay? John 13:34. All right, everybody turn there. We have read it, but it's kind of an important one. Okay,
Like chapter 1?
Chapter 13. Chapter 13, verse 34. All right, raise your hand if you have it. Okay, what translation or version are you reading from?
NIV.
The NIV, okay, read it for us. Everybody listen.
A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another.
All right, does anybody have something that's not NIV?
New King James.
All right, New King James, Cameron, read that verse.
A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another.
All right, anybody have something that you got?
I got NASB.
NASB, go.
A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you, that you also love one another.
Okay, any other versions, translations?
ALT.
Okay,
So now I'm giving you a new commandment, love each other, just as I have loved you. You should love each other.
okay, anybody else?
And then I
NIV, anybody have a different? All right, tell me who picked up on it. Why did I read it from all these different
Different wording.
translations? Was it different wording? All right, read it again.
All right. A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another.
Evelyn?
A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another.
Anna?
So now I'm giving you a new commandment, love each other, just as I have loved you. You should love each other.
And Nicholas?
A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you, that you also love one another.
it's the same, but the words are turned.
Not much though.
Not very
Right?
much.
This verse is very consistent across translations. There's a lot of verses, and we don't have time to go into that are translated very differently in different versions. They may still have the same meaning, but the wording is different. But the consistency among these different Bible versions, translations, whichever word you want to use, that tells me that this is a very clear and precise interpretation of what Jesus said. Right? Can we agree with that? Yes. All right.
It's like he's like, you better get this. Like, it's like he
Right,
wants
so
us.
there's not a whole lot, there's not a lot of variation. So we can take that with a lot of confidence in saying, okay, we know what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to love everyone, always, with the type of love that Jesus showed us.
That is an excellent one.
Now, are we gonna be successful? Absolutely not. I mean, we're not, because we're not Jesus. And we're never gonna be able to love as fully, as unconditionally, as selflessly as he did. All right? All right. 1 second, let me read you a couple of these things. They're on your handout. These things that I want you to remember, okay? All right. Love should be a verb. It's not enough to say that you love somebody or that you're showing them love. You have to actually act on it and do it, okay? Love does great things without expecting great attention. So make sure you're doing things for the right reason. Okay? We make loving people a lot more complicated than Jesus did. No, it shouldn't be hard. It should be easy. Okay? And this is the last thing I'm going to leave you with, and then you can go to lunch, okay? If love isn't the defining characteristic of our faith, we need to find our way back to where we started. Because one of our verses said, right, what sums it all up? One word sums up the entire law, which is the entire Bible. One word. Love.
Love.
That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
And really, when I started this, I said, all I'm going to do is come in here and say, love. That's all you have to do. It's that easy. It's not that easy, but it's that simple of what we're called to do.